You're listening to Packers Blitz with my co-host Andy, the podcast done by two diehard Packer fans who have survived Packer football of the 80s and lived to talk about it. This podcast is dedicated to the greatest fans, Packer fans. And so, Andy, I am fired up. I have my idiots of 2022 to hand out. So, here we go.
I'm ready.
Ready? Are you ready?
Yep.
If you wanted Aaron Rodgers traded,
you're an idiot.
You're an idiot. If you wanted Love to start,
you're an idiot.
You're an idiot. If you thought that Matt LaFleur forgot how to coach,
you're an idiot.
You're an idiot. Okay? And Colin Cowherd,
you're an
idiot. And by the way, Tom Brady still sucks. And that's it. I'm done, Andy. You take over.
Yeah. Just to remind you, so does Kirk Cousins. He sucks too.
Yeah, so, we'll get into that.
We'll get into that.
We're right on, brother. So go
yeah.
on.
So hello, happy Packer fans everywhere. Happy New Year. Welcome to Packers Blitz. 4 wins in a row. The Packers playoff odds are now at about 65%, as we had stated on previous podcasts that we have had over and over and over again. The Packers are guaranteed 100% in the playoffs if we are victorious against the Lions this week. Thank you, Packers fans at Lambeau Field and those who were watching / listening on whatever device for being our 12th man on Sunday. So Congratulations, Packers. Congratulations, Packers fans, on a well-deserved victory against the Vikings on Sunday.
Yes. So one of the things, just some news and notes, and we'll get into it a little bit later, but they changed the time. I just want to say this right now. They changed the time. It looks like the Packers will be playing on Sunday night at 7:20, so they're the Sunday night game. So I just wanted to bring that up really quick. We will bring it up at the end of the podcast just to remind you. But that was really, as far as news and notes, I didn't really have any other than, I think they really prepared for this game, and I think they really did really well. But we'll get that in the game review. But Andy, what news and notes, or what do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I have quite a few, as you can see. So just quickly to start off, John, I wanted to apologize to any and all of our fans in Canada. One of my favorite comedy movies is Strange Brew.
Love Strange Brew.
Which was released in, I believe, 1983 with the McKenzie brothers, Bob and Doug McKenzie. Comedians Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas portrayed a pair of fictional Canadian brothers who hosted the Great White North TV show. And this was developed by Second City Television and the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, just to let you know. The theme music was even done by the progressive rock band Rush in 1981. And so I was mimicking them when I was talking at the end of our last podcast. The McKenzie brothers like to say lines like, beauty, hoser, hosehead. And so I just want to say I'm sorry, Canada. I love Canada. And Hortons. I love Tim Hortons. All Canadians know what I'm talking about. So love Tim Hortons, and I love Canada. So
it was an homage to Canada because we love Canada. Come on, who doesn't love Canada?
Beer too. Love beer. Canadian brews and donuts. Yeah. Love donuts. There's
the donuts.
Funny scene in that movie with them bribing somebody with a donut, or actually several donuts.
Jelly donut.
If anybody can see Strange Brew, which you can, of course, if you can find it, make sure that you see it because it's a pretty awesome movie. And believe it or not, it even has Max von Sydow, I believe, who's I think
Yes,
was nominated for an Academy Award. I don't know if he won it, but a great actor. I'm not sure who convinced him to be in that movie, but it is pretty darn funny.
Great villain. He was a great villain.
Yes, Max von Sydow. Just to let you know, just figured I'd add that, John. So okay, I'm pretty fired up too, John. I just had to get this off my chest. According to NBC Sports, Ron Rivera, head coach of the Washington Commanders, did not, I repeat, did not know that they could be eliminated from the playoff race, or there was even a possibility when Sunday began. John, that makes me appreciate the Packers organization and our head coach even more. John, do you have any quick thoughts on that? I mean, I could go into great detail, but basically, he didn't know that his team could be eliminated from the playoffs.
Yeah. Right.
Unbelievable.
So here's the thing, which makes me laugh about it, is that, well, we shouldn't laugh. How did we lose to these guys in the first place? Okay, so we won't go back. I get it. But first of all, how did we lose to them? Like, that drove me crazy, because we wouldn't be in this mess. I shouldn't say mess. We wouldn't be at this time and place if we beat them. So, okay, pardon us. But here, Ron Rivera walked it back, that's the thing now, Andy, right? To say something stupid and then basically go, oh, well, what I meant was, and then he came back and he said, oh, I didn't really know about the playoffs. I was focused on the game, which that is perfect, right? Like he should know. He should know it. Come on, somebody should be in his ear and be like, hey, Ron, if we lose today, that's it.
Yeah, and he should have been focused on the playoffs, John.
Correct.
Correct. If they win that game and then the next game, they're in. Everybody, they are in the playoffs. So I don't know. I understand he's focusing on the game. How about you focus on winning it and then knowing what happens if you don't? Right. So they were eliminated. So that's another team that was in contention for that final playoff spot now. Yep. And it's just amazing that you have somebody that's leading an organization and leading a team that doesn't know that info. That's ridiculous. And I just couldn't believe it. So I figured I'd bring it up. So enough on that, right? So enough on that. So to follow up a couple things from last week's show, breaking news, David Bakhtiari did start. He did start at left offensive tackle. And I might have mentioned that on our last podcast on Packers Blitz last week, just to let you know that there was a possibility he was going to play either this week or next. But so that was good that he played, and he played really well too. I actually saw him in the game and staying in the game, which was great. So it was good to see him in the fourth quarter as well as the other quarters. So thank you, David, for playing, and great job on Sunday. So and then the second thing I wanted to talk about from last week's show, just to follow up. So what's the deal with Derek Carr and the Raiders? It came out just after last Packers Blitz podcast that the Raiders benched him so that a clause in his contract did not go into effect. Basically, if he had gotten injured in the last 2 games, then a $40 million clause would have kicked in that would have forced the Las Vegas Raiders to keep him next year. The Raiders want him not injured so that they can get the biggest trade value for him in 2023. So basically, Derek Carr will not be back with Los Angeles next year. And this just proves that the Raiders, just like the Commanders, are not, I repeat, not a well-run organization. But can you believe that? Over money. So
unbelievable.
I don't know what to say. I mean, he loves the organization. He bled Raiders football, and he basically willed them to the playoffs last year, and you do that to him. It's a lot of very similar to the situation with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers and all the back and forth that's been going on with that. I mean, come on. So,
however,
yeah, that's basically they didn't want to take the risk of because they don't have the money. So
they don't have the money, correct?
They don't.
So just some quick notes on that. Thanks, Andy, because that to me was really the way the Raiders do things. Okay, so the Raiders have been built on, and this is just because I love history and I love football history, every kind of history, really. One of the things Al Davis has done when he moved the team from Oakland to Los Angeles, back to Oakland, he was basically saying, I'm going to go where the money is and I'm going to do what I can. However, when he was in Oakland, one of the things when I was reading about it, their facility was so horrible. One of the things, Reggie McKenzie, if you remember him, he was a former GM at the Packers in the 90s, early 2000s. He became the GM at the Raiders. And when he got there, he said when he went to their practice field, it was nothing but like dirt and some grass. He said it was horrible. He said it was like some type of, cheap high school field. And then when he went to the locker rooms, and we won't get on this side, but Andy, when you worked at County Stadium and you would tell me stories about how the pipes were rusting and dripping, excrement over everything. And it was just terrible. And the facilities were, so that's where the Raiders were always like, even 80s, 90s. And Al Davis was just cheap. He just thought, I'm just going to keep this football team going and I'm going to, do this. But he never really spread the wealth. And that's the thing right now, which they're coming up to, which really quickly, they can't get rid of their head coach because you know why they can't get rid of their head coach? Because they don't have enough money to pay him if they do. So they have to keep him. And then they made a sacrifice of Derek Carr, who, like you said, lived, slept the Raiders. He was unbelievable. And if you saw him earlier in a press conference where he's crying because he's like, man, you don't understand. All these people put all this effort into it just to sleep at night, just to work out, just to do all these things, just to play football. And he was so impassioned. And then they do this to him? Okay. I mean, I don't know where he'll wind up, but I wish the guy the best. And we'll get into this as one of our topics about Devante Adams, who's probably regretting being with the Raiders now, even though he has said he still loves the Raiders and loves Derek Carr. He has to know what's going on. So anyway, that's pretty much off that, and that's really sad that happens. And again, like you said, it makes me value the Green Bay Packer organization a lot, because what happened when Gutekunst and Rodgers were at odds and butting heads, and you and me were saying, come on, man, I know you were talking about him being a prima donna and kind of, shut up and play, and I was kind of in that realm, but they figured it out. Right. And they said, okay, this is what we got to do. And yeah, kind of our salary cap is kind of really goofed up. But in the end, we made it work. And hopefully we'll make it work in the future where we can sign some players. But the guy deserves the money. I mean, let's be honest. He's done everything he can, to make this organization a great organization. With the exception, we need more Super Bowl titles, but that's just greedy. But that's okay. We're selfish that way, and we deserve it. But that's just some of the things I wanted to say. Sorry to go on that little sidetrack, but it was really interesting the way the NFL worked. So let's get into Colin Cowherd.
Yeah.
My favorite person.
Yeah. So last thing I wanted to, follow up on from last week. And John, you had already mentioned that Colin is an idiot.
Yes, he is.
Those are your words, not
Those
mine.
are my words.
When you said idiot.
Bring it on,
However,
Oh boy, here we go.
Colin Cowherd changed his mind not once, but 2 times more since our podcast last week. So again, Packer fans, sorry. I listen to Colin Cowherd pretty much every day. And so
good for you.
twice again, he changed his mind. On Friday, he picked the Packers to basically lose and for the Vikings to cover the 3-point spread. So the Packers were picked to win by 3 points. He picked the Vikings. And earlier in the week, he was saying the Packers were going to win and this and that. So that's, from Tuesday to Friday, he had changed his mind and picked against them. And then today he picked the Packers to make the playoffs again and defeat the Lions. John, that makes me very scared, and I have that in bold and in caps and everything else. It makes me very scared. He's wrong about half the time on his blazing 5 picks. He calls them blazing 5. Even today, he said he was at 54%. It's lower than that now because of this week and his picks this week. So he's hovering right about there. And fans listening to this, please do not listen to his The Favorites Best Bets podcast like I did. He's not a sharp, he's a square. He comes, he keeps going round and round. Packers fans, do not listen to a word he says when it regards betting or betting on the Packers in particular.
Yeah, you lose your money.
That's all I'm going to say on that. But he's just doing the same things he's been doing and waffling, and I just can't stand it. I do respect him in some ways. He gets things out there in the open. He has a forum in which he's able to talk, and he does a great work. I enjoy a lot of the guests that he brings on. Very, very interesting guests. It's nice to listen to his podcast. But when it comes to the Packers and it comes to this stuff, I wish he would just stop it. But he's not going to do it. So. Yeah. So
okay. So
moving
on. Maybe one day he'll hear this and give us a call, and then we can be on there with him because that definitely will help our number, and we'll definitely do it and have some fun. So, game review. Like Andy said, 4th straight win. We went from 4-8 to 8-8. So we're at 500, a winning percentage, and now in the season begins again.
Starting over.
Yeah, so 41-17 over Minnesota, over the Vikings. Wasn't even that close. Wasn't even a game after the first quarter, in my opinion. So, you know how I thought we would win this game, Andy? Just 2 words. Do you remember, or a name? Do you remember back in the past the guy named Ed Donatel? Remember that guy?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Packers defensive coordinator.
Correct. And he was famous for, people love history as much as I do, the 4th and 26 in the Philadelphia divisional playoff game in, I believe, 2004. 4th and 26. If you remember, we're winning that game. We're going to win it. It's 4th and 26. Last hope for the Eagles. And the quarterback for them, oh my gosh, what was his name? Eagles fans, you got to help me out. I know a lot of you were like, didn't like him at one time. I don't know, Andy, if you could look it up really quick for me.
It should come to me as well, but it's not.
He was 90, so if you could look up 90s quarterback, I don't know, on your phone. But anyway, he threw to this guy named Freddie Mitchell, okay, and they got the 4th and 26, and eventually, I believe, kicked a field goal and won the game. And the thing was so funny was, if you can look at this, online. And people have said, hey, they did this wrong, they did that wrong, and everything. And it's really, really ridiculous when you think about it, how they're able to get that. But guess what? He was the guy who did it. And Donovan McNabb.
Donovan McNabb, 1999 until 2009. So
right.
10 or more seasons.
So here's the thing. His defense is ranked. I know, Andy, you're the stats guy, not trying to steal your fire. We ranked in 2000 defense, total defense 15. And 2001, we were 12. 2002, we were 12. And then in 2003, we fell to 17. So in other words, when I was saying, wait a minute, Ed Donatel, we're going to win this game because he doesn't know how to be a great coordinator. And it was evident in the game when they were like running some underneath stuff or running some other different running plays. I was like, oh my God, that is our defense from the 2000s. We couldn't stop underneath stuff. We couldn't stop any certain running plays. We were just this mediocre defense. And I was like, oh, we're going to win this game because these guys are horrible. And so that was just one of my things that I just really looked at that said, yes, we're going to win this game. And even on good old Tony Romo was like, yeah, I don't know if the Vikings are going to go anywhere with this defense. And remember, they spent a lot of money on this defense. They have some Hall of Famers on there or potential Hall of Famers with Zadarius Smith, who's an All-Pro, Patrick Peterson, Harrison Smith. I mean, they got some guys on there, and they got a couple other guys too. Off the top of my head, I can't think of. So it's not like they don't have talent. They have talent. So
the linebacker Kendricks is pretty good. So.
Yeah. So Andy, let's have your thoughts on the game.
Yeah. So 41-17 victory over the Vikings. First and foremost, it was a great team win. I was wrong with one of my predictions for the game. I was wrong. The Packers didn't need Aaron Rodgers to be great to win.
Yeah, that's okay.
Green Bay just needed him to manage the game, make good decisions, good veteran decisions, and then don't turn the ball over. And they did those things. And Kirk Cousins and the Vikings turned the ball over 4 times. So we didn't turn over the ball, and they did. So, and then second, the Packers won simply because the team repeatedly made big plays.
Yes.
Again, big team effort, and they made big plays. Keyshawn Nixon, love that guy. 105 yard kickoff return for a touchdown. Darnell Savage had a 75-yard interception for a TD. Yep. Adrian Amos and Rudy Ford again. Rudy. With interceptions, making big plays. Adrian Amos has really stepped up too. Rudy Ford's been doing it all year. Kenny Clark created a big fumble and recovered it. He did both. So he caused the fumble and he recovered it. And I think they were driving for a touchdown at the time. So great play by him.
About time.
Third thing, the Minnesota offense had only 2 offensive plays over 20 yards. Only 2 over 20 yards. And both of them came after the Packers were already up 41-3 in the fourth quarter. In addition, the Vikings defense created 0 turnovers.
Nice job.
And then fourth, like we mentioned on the Packers, the last Packers Blitz podcast, the Packers needed to win the time of possession battle, and we did, 34 minutes to 25 minutes.
Yes.
And we won on first down too. We had 20 first downs to 18 for them. So the Packers did that. And then finally, and probably most importantly, Jair Alexander and the Packers totally shut down an absolute wide receiving stud in Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson only had one catch for 15 yards. And then that one catch, by the way, was when the Packers D was in zone, and Jair wasn't even responsible in coverage for him on that play. He was nearby, but he was not the guy that was supposed to cover him. So just a fantastic job of really doing what no other player or defense has been able to do this year. Justin Jefferson had a legitimate chance to have over 2,000 yards this season, and has already broken pretty much every record for a wide receiver in his first 3 seasons in the league. In particular, breaking a lot of Randy Moss's records for the Vikings. So, I mean, just a great talent. And so to be able to do that, the Packers D shutting him down, Jair Alexander, whatever words came out of his mouth, he backed them up. John, I don't like that stuff. It's like, just, shut up and play the game. Didn't like it what he was doing during the game either. That should have been a 15-yard penalty for the taunting that he was doing. I don't care about the dance. I don't care that he was making fun of it, whatever. You don't poke fun at a player like that during the game too, because that can come back to bite you as well. So didn't really like that at all. But anyway, it was a great job by the Packers D. Great job by Jair Alexander. So again, a great team win and a great all-around effort. Basically run the ball, win the turnover differential, and play great, aggressive, inspired D. And that's what we did. So John, by far, this was the best Packers game in 2022. Isn't this what Packers fans were expecting this entire season?
Yeah. And that's a hard one, because you just wonder what was going on between those losses and stuff, and losing to the Commanders, and that early Detroit game where we lost, I think, like 15-12 or whatever. It doesn't matter,
9.
But still, it was just like, where was the offense? Where's the special team? And we knew the special teams coming in was kind of like, hold your hands and pray, right? We just hope this is better, because it can't get worse. But we knew the offense should do a little bit better. And the defense, like we talked about, me and you, before the season, was like, on paper, this is a top 5, top 2 defense. And they did not play like it until recently. So hopefully that's what we'll be able to carry on.
Yep.
Okay. So let's get to our topic of the week. Now that the season is nearly over, well, it's over for the Raiders. We already kind of talked about that. But one of the things I was really interested, I saw this, is how did the Devante Adams trade work out really for both teams in 2022? Now, I think it's a draw. And the reason I say that is because Devante Adams has been as advertised with the Raiders, okay? And he was with a second or third string quarterback against the 49ers, and they almost beat the 49ers because of some of the catches by Devante Adams. There were a couple catches I was like, wow, okay, we missed that. I'm not going to lie, because there was a catch going back in the game earlier on to I think it was Watson. Yeah, it was Watson, Christian Watson. And he had his hands up and he had the ball, and then the Minnesota defender swatted it out. Well, there was a similar play in the 49er Raider game where he threw the ball and Devante Adams just took it away. That guy from the 49ers corner should have intercepted it or broken it up. And Devante Adams said, nope, my ball, got it, 2 feet in, touchdown. I'm like, okay, that's what we miss. Now, as far as the draft picks we got, that's a hard one. So everybody wants to be, hey, man, we need to do this now, and we got to get these players now. And remember, they're kids. okay? So Quay Walker and Devante Wyatt, you got to remember, they played on one of the best all-around college defenses in college history. That defense was amazing. I mean, I think it's got maybe 6, 7 guys in the NFL from that defense alone. That's unheard of. So when you look at the stats, and Andy's going to get into that, not bad. Devante Wyatt, it's been up and down, but he's learning, and I think he played pretty well against the Vikings. As far as, again, my feeling is Devante Adams should have probably stayed a year. I think if he would have put his ego aside and the Packers have put maybe a little bit of their ego aside and said, hey, look, here we go. Let's give it one more shot, okay? See how things go. And the next year, boom, you're out. Okay, fine. The problem is now Derek Carr is probably not going to be there next year. And poor Devante Adams is going, huh? I got to start with a rookie quarterback? That was the whole reason I left Green Bay. I did not want Aaron Rodgers to retire, and Jordan Love, whether he's good or not, we don't know. Jury's still out. I'm starting with a rookie quarterback, basically. And that's the same thing he's going to have to do here because the Raiders don't have money to go out. I know they've been talking about Tom Brady coming there. Give me a break. They've been talking about Aaron Rodgers coming there. Give me a break. They've been talking about Jimmy Garoppolo coming there. Give me a break. Okay, none of those guys are going to be there, with the exception maybe Brady because he's insane. Don't get me started. We'll do that a topic another time. And Jimmy Garoppolo, really? Is he really going to help you? Yes and no. And so it's not really going to be a complete quarterback for you. Aaron Rodgers, would he help you? Yes, he would. And hopefully, as we've talked about in past podcasts, that's pretty much out of the realm of things. Because like I said, then fine. Give us your star players, Raiders, and you can have them. You know, and they're not going to give away Darren Waller and Max Crosby. That is not happening. So my feeling is at the end of the day, I think it's a push. I think we got some really good, decent players and some young players. And I think Devante Adams got what he wanted. He broke some records. And Andy, I know, sure will talk about that. And he was able to play really well. But here's the thing. When it all comes down to it, Devante Adams is sitting on the couch, and we're possibly going to the playoffs. So that, to me, if you're looking for a defining moment, that's the defining moment. If you were saying, give me an answer, John, did this work or not? I think the Packers got the best because, again, we got some nice young talent, and we are able to hopefully make the playoffs. So, Andy, what is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with you, John. It was pretty much a push. You know, so Packers fans in the trade, in the 2022 NFL draft, the Packers received from the Raiders pick number 22 in the first round and pick number 53 in the second round. And we received those picks. And actually, John, the Packers drafted Quay Walker, the inside linebacker from Georgia, with the 22nd pick. Yeah. Wyatt, we picked with our pick that we already had, our pick that was at number 28.
Oh, right.
So we got Quay Walker, and then we got, in essence, Christian Watson. We got him at pick 34. We had to give up some draft capital to get him, but one of the pieces that we had to give up to get him was the second round pick from the Raiders that we had received at 53, and I think our second round pick as well. But we did get indirectly Christian Watson with that pick, kind of, at pick 34. So it looks as if, as of now, we hit with both of those picks. Quay Walker has played in all 16 games for the Packers. He has 114 tackles, John, 68 solo. He has 1.5 sacks and 3 forced fumbles. So that is a lot of production out of that inside linebacker spot. Pretty awesome. Christian Watson has 13 games played, He did miss a few games, as we know. He has 36 receptions, 507 yards, and seven receiving touchdowns. And he also has 68 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. So he has 9 touchdowns overall. So again, a great playmaker for us. So then for those draft picks, we gave up Devante Adams, of course. And Devante this season has 1,443 receiving yards and 14 touchdowns. So I think that the Las Vegas Raiders are probably happy with his production, and I would hope they would be, because he's one of the top receivers in the National Football League. But again, I can't believe that they're wasting his talent, his prime years, with a potential reboot at quarterback. So again, that's kind of a head scratcher there. And that's a perfect example of an organization, again, in the Raiders organization, that thinks one player will get them to the Super Bowl. That's also thinking short term and not long term. And that's why the Raiders are not a consistent winning team, and the Packers are. So overall, the deal was probably a push for both teams. And I agree with you totally, John. The Raiders got an elite top 5 receiver in his prime. The Packers got 2 young and talented rookies, one on the offensive side of the ball and one on the defensive side of the ball, with long-term upside. So I think both teams are probably happy with the outcome of the trade.
I agree.
And I think you might be, I mean, if Christian Watson turns out to be what we hope he's going to be, it actually might turn in the Packers' favor, because we're going to have him for more years, hopefully. So a lot more upside with potential with that. I think both of us would have to probably say, and I'm going off script a little bit here, but
that's great.
This is unscripted. That's another show, I think. But anyway,
Okay.
So, I mean, I think we both can agree that we didn't want Devante Adams to leave, and I don't think most Packer fans thought that was a good idea. I think if they could do it all over again, the Packers, of course, would want Devante Adams, because we are supposed to be about winning Super Bowls, and he would give us, of course, a great chance to win one. So, it's unfortunate that you broke up that tandem with Rodgers, but it's just the way sometimes the NFL business works, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's the business, and it sucks. And we're gonna have to make some hard decisions, which we've talked into past podcast episodes about Aaron Jones and David Bakhtiari, as well as possibly Aaron Rodgers. And there's some other guys with Lazard, I think, is another guy we gotta throw some money at. So it's going to be a rough off season. Hopefully not too rough, but Andy and I will cover some of that too. So let's get game preview. All right, Lions of Packers. Never in a million years would I think this would come to this. I mean, Andy, let's be honest. Do you think it would come to this?
Nope.
Okay,
nope,
there we go. All. Solid nope. So again, as I mentioned earlier, they have flexed the game to Sunday, January 8th at 7:20. Hey, win and we're in. Here's the thing. When Andy and I are right, we're right. And when we're wrong, we admit it. Okay. Andy already admitted that. I'm going to admit some stuff here. But I was more right than I was wrong. So I'm going to take that and put that feather in my cap, as they say. What did I say about with Kirk Cousins? You get him off the spot. You get him to try to run. He doesn't want to run. He doesn't want to roll out. He wants to get on a spot and throw. Just like Tua, what I said last week. You get on him, you put, whether you sack him, and we got to really, really, really work on our blitz pressures and our sacks. I just can't believe we were going against third string centers and right tackles and not being able to have at least 4 or 5 sacks. But anyway, point is, I said, get him off, and he's done. Same thing with the quarterback of the Lions, Jared Goff. When you get him in that pocket and he can sit in that pocket, you're in trouble. But you get him and you start knocking him around and get him to run a little bit, which he can do. He's an athletic quarterback. You're in big trouble. Okay. However, the good thing about Jared Goff is the reason the Rams got rid of him because they were sick and tired of when you start putting pressure on him and knock him down a few times, he's done. He's in his shell, just like Kirk Cousins and Tua. Okay. Now, Tua's extenuating circumstances because of his concussions, and we feel sorry for him. And, I hope he has a great career. He's a good player. The other thing is they got Jamal Adams. They can run. Okay. And, they have some other guys who can run. And then they have that Amon St. Brown guy who's not what I would say Justin Jefferson, but he's close and he's coming up. So, again, got to match him. Make sure we're matching him up with Jair and just Joe Barry. I'm going to say this again. Do what you did last week, okay? Or Sunday, I should say. What you did was exactly what you should have done in the first game against the Vikings. You man up with Jair, with the best receiver. You knock people around. You get to their Jared Goff off his spot. You make them one-dimensional, even though they can run, and they can run well. Still, you start doing that. And also, here's the thing. The Lions have never been in this type of environment for a playoff in a very, very, very long time. Okay? And, that counts a lot, right? So just like in this game, you need to get after them, and Andy will get into a little bit more, establish the run. This isn't hard. Like, stop. Like, here's the other thing, just really quickly. We need Christian Watson to run underneath routes, okay? And I'll tell you why. Because Christian Watson, takes the top off your defense. You throw a 60-yarder, and people go, okay, we got to be careful. We got to send two guys over there to cover Christian Watson. But if you start running Christian Watson underneath routes, drag routes, a simple corner route, a simple down and out or whatever they call it, and you run those underneath routes, people are going to jump those routes, right? They're going to be like, oh, it's 3rd and 5. Boom, Christian Watson. Okay. 3rd and 5, Christian Watson. Okay. Wait a minute. We're going to jump that route. As soon as you do that, Christian Watson runs past you. So I can't believe that LaFleur is not going, wait a minute. Why are we running underneath routes with this guy? Because as soon as the corner or linebacker come up, he's going to run past them. And Aaron Rodgers is going to have free open guy to hit for a touchdown or close to a touchdown. So again, we can't take these Lions for granted. They're not your same old Lions. They're a good team coached by a hard coach, and they have a nice defense now. It is really played well. However, Andy will, I'm sure, talk about this, and if he doesn't, on the road, they suck. Their statistics go way down, but doesn't mean anything when you're playing for something that each team covets with a playoff spot. So that's it for me. Andy, if you want to talk a little bit more about this preview.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. When they're away from Ford Field, they are not good, and Jared Goff is not very good either. So you're absolutely spot on that. So our opponent, Packers fans, the Lions. So I guess I had a couple of really important takes from the Lions previous 2 games. The Bears ran for exactly 200 yards against them. The Panthers ran for 320 yards against the Lions. And so that was 2 games ago, and they ran all over them. And basically, Dan Campbell, the Lions head coach, said they basically smashed them in the mouth, and every cliche that you could probably use to describe how they got their beat down.
Sure.
But yeah, they got ran all over in that game. So So simply put, with our offensive line and our 2 running backs, the Green Bay Packers football team on offense needs to keep with their mantra, their offensive identity, and basically run, 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 and run some more, run the ball some more against the Lions D. And then on defense, the Packers need to do a lot of the good things that worked against the Vikings. Collapse the pocket, put pressure on Jared Goff. He's a lot like Kirk Cousins, like John said, and normally does not leave the pocket and run. So Jared Goff's go-to guy when he needs to play is wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown, John.
Yeah, that's
I
the
would
guy.
put Jerry Alexander on him as much as possible, and then don't. I wouldn't forget the running backs DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams.
Yeah.
I believe you mentioned Jamal Adams, John. I think it's Jamal Williams.
Yeah, I would say Jamal Adams. Sorry.
Yeah, that was like I think he's a really good safety for somebody, isn't
yes,
he?
he is for Seattle.
Okay, so we don't like talking about Seattle, but yeah. So anyway, so don't forget about those 2. They had a monster game against the Bears. They had 274 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns between the 2 of them. So it was 274 total yards, not just rushing yards. So a combination of the rushing and the receiving yards. So, but they did have over 200 rushing yards, if I can remember off the top of my head. So again, we need to contain those 2 a little bit, and that's going to be again a path to victory for the Packers. So basically, in summary, the Packers game plan should be threefold: run the ball, stop the run, then pressure the statue that is quarterback Jared Goff and protect Aaron Rodgers. Make Amon-Ra St. Brown a non-factor, just like we did against Justin Jefferson and the Vikings. So if we do those 3 things, we should have a victory. So obviously the Lions are another dome team that doesn't want to play at Lambeau Field. And then with the temperature expected to be about 29 degrees at kickoff on Sunday, it's probably going to be even less than that now that we aren't playing at noon. I think the low is supposed to be 21. They aren't going to want anything to do with that. So a big bonus for us that we're at home in this and not in the dome like we were with the loss we had to them. I think it was again 15-9 earlier in the year at Ford Field. So
yeah, John,
any thoughts on that? I think pretty much we're in line.
We're in line, buddy. We'll just keep on doing those things and we'll just be fine. So
yep.
So now
so John, before we go, do you have any New Year's resolutions for 2023?
Yes, I do. 1, we're gonna have a great year. 2, we gotta get back to the Super Bowl. Okay, so let's make a resolution, Packer fans. All put our mind power, like Andy. Well, sure, you say this too, Andy, but like Aaron Rodgers says, put the power of the mind together, the positivity, and let's will ourselves to the Super Bowl. So that's one of the things. And then just continue our podcast here. I love doing my podcast with my great buddy Andy. It's been so much fun, and we will continue this into the new year. And that's pretty much it for me. How about you, Andy?
Yeah, I'm going to try to do as much golfing as I possibly can. Hiking, biking. We've been doing a lot, actually, of especially hiking on the Ice Age Trail around Wisconsin. So, been doing a lot of that. But basically, I want to spend as much time as I possibly can with my beautiful wife, Sue, and my kids. And so that's what we normally try to do. My wife and I, we try to spend every moment that we can with them. And so that's basically, it's not really a resolution, but I think it's a kind of a recommitment to that on my part, and trying to stay active and spend time with family, which, of course is important for both of us. So.
Yes, it is. It's important for everybody to spend time with your family, and you don't forget about, we're a Packer family too, but you also have your true family. Spend time with them too. That's what I love doing too. So you took the words right out of my mouth, Andy. So
as usual.
So why don't you get us out of here?
Okay, John. Happy New Year, Packers fans. One more win and we're in. Thank you all for your support and love of Packer football. Thanks for listening. Great talking with you, John, this week on Packers Blitz.
Yeah, Packers Blitz. So 2 things. Again, we do have an email, packersblitz80@gmail.com. So packersblitz80@gmail.com. Hey, send, some stories in. Send some, anything you want. Tell us we're wrong. That's okay. We're not saying we're perfect. We're not Colin Cowherd. But, send things
Definitely
in.
not.
Like I said, send some pictures in. Do whatever you want, because we want to embrace you as our Packer family. And like I said, we love doing this podcast. It's not only good to vent, but also have some fun and laugh at the other things. We're also on YouTube. So we only have audio, so you can't see our beautiful faces yet. But eventually you will, when Andy and I build this up a little bit more, and we will have a live and do some great things in 2023. But hit subscribe. So again, we're a small podcast, but with your help, we'll make it a bigger podcast. And then maybe Colin Cowherd will take over his show and make it our show, right, Andy?
Yeah, get invited to be on his show. That would be awesome.
Or at least his podcast. So we love you all, Packer fans. Have a great week, and obviously a great year. We will talk after the Detroit game. Hopefully it will be a big win and we get in the playoffs. So take care, Andy.
Take care, John.